Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and to our first run look at the new On Cloudsurfer Max. This is the successor to the Cloudeclipse. It's a new long distance running shoe built with the purpose of helping us runners go longer, more comfortably. We've taken it out for some early test miles and here's how we got on. And when it comes to stack, there's a 36 mils on the heel, there's 30 mils on the forefoot for a 6 mil drop. That's a bigger wedge than you get on the Cloudsurfer 2. It weighs in at 10.4 ounces or 295 grams in my UK men's 8.5, that's a US 9. At launch, it's going to be priced at £170 in the UK or $180 in the US. Moving on to a quick shoe whip round then, and On says the Cloudsurfer Max builds on the legacy of the Cloudeclipse as a long distance running shoe that aims to offer next level cushioning and comfort. They say it's the biggest stacked shoe in On's current lineup, with a midsole that features a double layer of On's CloudTech phase elements. Those are designed to collapse like dominoes to create a smooth roll through. There's also a softer Helium Superfoam bottom unit that shoots for an even more effortless sensation. The speed board that we saw in the Eclipse is gone, again to kind of ramp up that softness. Up top you've got new engineered mesh uppers. It's quite thick and close. You've got a flat neck collar with medium padded heel collars inside. It's got a knitted tongue that's quite flat and wrapping with a substantial gusseting. The lacing setup's been reworked with new kind of I-stay constructions. Got this band that runs down them, which is interesting. Then when you flip them over, you've got quite a classic On outsole setup with a good generous covering of rubber that's quite thick. It covers all the key impact areas. You've also got that sort of often seen big channel down the middle of the shoe. Quick word here on fit from me because I talk about it in the rest of the video, but overall I think this has got a nice feel on the foot. It's quite a snug fit. I found it quite close, just about enough room into the toe box. The one thing I will say, over shorter distances like at 10k was absolutely fine. The fit felt really nice. It felt sort of hugging and snug and supportive. My only problem is you've got this like little stitched in detail here that hit my toe knuckle immediately when I put them on. I didn't feel it on the run, but it is a bit of a worry if that's sort of tight on you across the foot. I do feel like these big stitches might be an issue. It hasn't been yet, so I'm going to keep an eye on that in the review. Otherwise, I've good hold in the heels. I had good lockdown across the midfoot, just about enough room in the toe box. Maybe I'd want a little bit more space if I'm going to go long in the shoe, which I probably considered going half the size up to avoid some of those issues that I just described.
When it comes to the fit of the On Cloudsurfer Max, I've got a good fit in my normal running shoe size. Got a UK 9 here, it's a US 9.5 with On. In general, the fit on On shoes has always been very good for me. I think they do really good uppers in general, and this has a comfortable feel to it without being overly padded in any way at all. The upper feels like it's giving the foot a bit of space to breathe, but holding it securely, enough room around the toe. So yeah, I would stick to your normal size with the Cloudsurfer Max.
So I'm going up to 4.5 miles into my first run in the On Cloudsurfer Max. Been an interesting shoe. You know, for a shoe that On says is supposed to be, it's basically their biggest cushion, but supposed to be one of their softest shoes. It's supposed to be softer than the Cloudsurfer 7. My initial out the box reaction when I put them on and started moving was that they felt quite sort of firm. They have loosened up a little bit, but it's interesting. I would describe these as soft but not spongy, so you're not going to get something like a Mizuno Neo Vista 2 or Brooks Ghost Max 3. That kind of softness isn't here. There's not really as much sink and not as much squash into the mid, so it all comes back quite quickly. And what you get though is it's almost like a top softness. It just takes the edge off the road underfoot really nicely. Everything sort of feels smooth rather than really sinky soft. So the cushion is quite nice, not overdone, and I just feel like there's a really good nice kind of roll through, good clip along in these shoes so far. I was only going to come out for 3. I was feeling particularly kind of leggy and heavy and wasn't looking forward to running, in fact, and actually they made me want to go on more. The transitions are really smooth. The shoes are almost sort of wonderfully quiet. They're so, and that's where the softness, it's like slipper like on the floor. You don't hear much of the footfall, and I guess in that sense there is like a softness, but you know, if you're thinking about that combination of really sort of pillowy, cushiony softness that you get from some shoes with that kind of squishing midsoles, that's not what you're getting here. But I would describe the sensation, I mean, I think the sensation is really actually quite nice. I'm actually really quite enjoying it, and it does so far have the hallmarks of a shoe that I could feel like I could run a lot in and do some long distance. Aside from a couple bits on fit where I'm a bit worried that the toe knuckle have a kind of stitched on sort of lacing eyelet. When I first put them on, that was buttoned right up against the big toe knuckle and it felt like it was going to be a problem. It actually hasn't at the moment, but it just worries me, you know. And again, I'm sort of thinking of shoes that I might want to go and run 100 miles in, and underfoot, the ride of these feels right. I mean, it feels a little bit like the Brooks Hyperion Max did for me last year, where it's just a nice connection to the ground and it's just like an effortless, easy, quick return from the midsole that's just working nicely. But I'm a little bit worried about the space in the toe box and the room up front for that. For something like this that I'm doing now, like an easy 10k, no problem at all. Whether it'll hold up for longer, I don't know. But yeah, from the first mile so far, I think they feel light. I think the comfort's good. I do like the ride, although I don't know if I agree with, you know, On's categorization of them as sort of really super soft and plush. I don't think they are. I think it's a completely different ride to some of the big soft shoes you might get, but it's not one that's unpleasant.
Good morning from London. I am out for my first run in the On Cloudsurfer Max. Very easy run on the car today. It's early in the morning here, doing a recovery run after a double workout day yesterday, so probably something like 35-40 minutes of time on feet, nice and relaxed. See how the shoe feels. I've enjoyed this Cloudtech phase cushioning in other On shoes for sure, like the Cloudsurfer. Going to see how it feels with the higher stack height, without the speed board on the Cloudeclipse, and see if it, you know, feels softer and more cruisy. Anyway, just gonna get on with it now. Nice relaxed run. So just back from first run in the On Cloudsurfer Max. Nice and chilled, a little 5 miler, around 40 minutes this morning, just to flush the legs out a bit after yesterday's running. Shoes, well, first of all, I'd say they're not that soft. I mean, there's a lot going on about how soft these shoes are, and out of the box, yeah, not very soft. I think maybe they'll break in a little bit because it's, you know, it's a high stack. Maybe the foam's got a bit of give to release after a bit of running, but at the moment it's kind of that classic On thing where they say it's a really soft shoe, and it's not that soft a shoe, but it's not an unpleasant ride for sure. It still is, I think, comfortable enough. Rocker, you know, is noticeable. I don't think it's as noticeable as on the Cloudsurfer, but you do get that little bit of roll through. It's fairly smooth, ticking over at those easy paces today. I had a short speed up at one point and, you know, felt fine there, but, you know, it's quite a big shoe. It's interesting, it's not a typical big shoe because, I mean, the stack's not as high as lots of max cushion shoes for one, and it's not as wide. It's got a more narrow base. There's a little bit of, you know, kind of narrowing around the midfoot, so that might compromise stability a little bit, but nothing I felt today, really. I am a neutral runner, but yeah, didn't really notice anything on that front today. Yeah, so far, it felt okay. I think, you know, it did the job today. I've been doing that kind of recovery run, like last week, the day after double, I did it in the Saucony Hurricane 24, and, you know, that is a much more typical, I guess, max cushion shoe. It's softer, it's got wider base, it's more supportive, more stable. Actually, I think it has a little bit more bounce as well, and there's a rocker on that shoe as well. So, you know, very first impressions would be, I preferred doing it in the Hurricane last week, but that is another shoe actually that improved after a little bit of testing. I think there's a bit of breaking in to do with the Cloudsurfer Max, so we'll see how it goes on some more runs. But yeah, it's not one that you step into and go, oh, this is, you know, super soft, you know, highly max cushion shoe, which is a bit surprising given, you know, how it's been branded from the start, but we'll see how it softens up as we go.
So I've just finished my first run in the On Cloudsurfer Max. Ended up doing 6 miles, just under an hour, so sort of fairly easy place, sort of my cruising pace. What can I say about these shoes? I really like them. I mean, it's first time out of the box, more testing needed, but from what I've felt so far, it's a ride that really suits the way that I run. It's the kind of shoe that I really enjoy. And what I mean by that, it's kind of soft, but it's not sinky, there's not too much compression, there's a decent amount of ground feel, and the softness that you are getting, it's just kind of smoothing out the road. I think there's a quite nice roll through from the rocker that you've got there, or at least from those sort of Cloudtech phase elements that are collapsing and rolling through, and everything does feel nice and smooth. So I think this is a capable shoe that does, in the first impressions, fit the build that On has kind of sort of marked it out for, which is to go sort of long and easy. Big long mileage. It just had that ease of effort, and I've enjoyed what I've felt so far. I do have a couple question marks over the fit for long haul, maybe sort of go half a size up, but in terms of the ride, it just feels right to me. It feels quite natural How different it feels from the Cloudeclipse, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back. I haven't worn those shoes for quite a while and do a little side-by-side test. It doesn't feel like it's a huge change to me. And I like the Cloudeclipse, so that's a compliment. You know, they were also just a kind of shoe that sort of suited my natural kind of stride. They're definitely not as soft, I don't think, as the Cloud Monster Hyper. And so although On has said that this is the biggest stack shoe and the most cushioned shoe in the range, I'm not sure that's going to be true. Again, how different they are from the Cloudsurfer 2. Not too sure if they do feel softer. We'll have to do some side-by-sides and see about that. But fresh out of the box, first 50 minutes on feet, what I've seen so far from the On Cloudsurfer Max, I really like it. I don't think it's the sort of most max cushion shoe that's out there, but for what it does, I think it works really nicely.
So obviously very early verdict on the On Cloudsurfer Max, only been for one pretty short run, so I take all this with a grain of salt, but I don't think it's necessarily the shoe that I expected it to be based on the marketing around it, that just because it isn't that soft. Like, you aren't really getting that really cushy feeling that you get from most max cushion shoes these days. That's fine. I'm not someone who tends to really love max cushion shoes. I often find they're a bit too much, but if you're going to pay a big premium price tag and get a shoe that's supposed to be superbly cushioned and go and rock out an easy run in it, you probably expect something a little bit different to the On Cloudsurfer Max, because it's got a fairly firmish feel. It's got a nice rocker, but you can get that in shoes that are a lot lighter and a fair bit cheaper. Something like the Hoka Max 6 for me would deliver that, and I prefer the foam on the Hoka Max 6, because that's the other thing with the foam in the Cloudsurfer Max. I did pick up the pace a little bit. It's not the bounciest, most responsive foam. It really does rely on that rocker, creating a nice smooth feel, and I think the ride will probably soften up a little bit over time. We'll see if it does become a bit more cushy. But at the moment, it does offer something a little bit different, I guess, lots of max cushion shoes. But I think what it's offering is more just of a standard daily trainer ride. And there are those available for less with similar levels of cushioning and support, I think. But like I say, it's only really been one run. Compared to the feels of the other shoes that On has in the range, I think the Cloudsurfer itself feels a little bit almost softer and nimbler to me, because it is a lighter shoe. You think you feel the rocker a little bit more. The Cloudsurfer does tend to flatten out a bit over longer runs when you push the pace, and maybe the higher stack on the Cloudsurfer Next will mean it stands up better to that, which is what we got from the Cloudeclipse. This is obviously replacing that in the lineup, and obviously you haven't got the speedboard now to make the ride a bit softer, but like I've been saying, it isn't the softest ride out there. So yeah, there's lots of things that have been thrown up from this first run that I want to go and test a bit more. I want to see how it feels in the long run, see if it is versatile to really be considered more of a daily trainer. Probably the main thing I took away from this first run is that the Cloudsurfer Max isn't really a max soft, very cushioned shoe like the other ones on the market. It's a bit more like a daily trainer, and that has positives and negatives. But if you are coming into it expecting a super soft ride, I didn't really get that on the first run. So we'll see if it breaks it a bit.
So there you have it. That has been our first run look at the new On Cloudsurfer Max. We will do more testing miles to bring you the full verdict in a big review in due course. We've got lots of shoes on at the moment, but we are getting through them. This one will be on the channel as soon as we can. If you're interested in kind of soft cushion daily trainers, I'm going to pop a video up on the channel right now that you can go and watch. Otherwise, as ever, thank you very much for stopping by, and until next time, happy running, people.